Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I'm here with Cody Nelson, the glassing guru from Gohunt.com, the optics manager. We are actually here in my backyard on my patio recording this podcast. We're being supervised by Poppy Scott, who is barking at anything that comes in the yard, so we're good and safe here. Buddy, it's been a while. Looking forward to having this podcast with you to talk about Gohunt.com and what you guys got going on over there.
Have you got a while?
You got 4 hours?
It's we might have to make this a 2-part or 3-part. It's been going great. It's incredible. Just the sheer volume of people and the customers, and it would stagger you.
When you moved over to Gohunt.com, did you, in your wildest dreams, believe that you would be where you're at now? And I know there could be an answer of yes, I knew we'd be here, but I mean, you guys have literally, in my mind, taken over the space in the optics department. You have, as far as e-commerce on the Gohunt.com site, I mean, the numbers and the amount of happy customers is unbelievable.
In all of that, Jay, goes through your mind, and you think to yourself, the unknown, and you know about this company, and you're working with this company, and you think to yourself, God, what are the possibilities? And it is you like I always believed in myself and what could happen, and the knowledge and the customer service and the expertise part of it. You just keep doing that consistently, and provide people with the best selection, and you just kind of keep working on that, and in the back of your mind, you're like, are those numbers really possible? And then you hit those numbers, and you're like, okay, what's next? And you keep moving the bar, and but when you work for people like I do, our team at Gohunt is, you try to think of taglines and things to say, and I keep saying this. It's a group of people that are the most driven, the most passionate about hunting, and it's the idea of teamwork and putting it together and laying it all out there and learning with each other and making mistakes and figuring it out, like, how do we not do that again, and how do we maximize this? And it's the best experience I've ever had. And I think I'm still one of the oldest guys in the building, and you think to yourself, man, does it get any better? And we keep improving upon what we're doing. And, we had a meeting yesterday that I was, somebody just asked me, like, hey, what did that mean? And I said to him, I literally said to myself, period. It was just humbling that to know that there was that much that was there, and that many people that were there to support us, and basically to ask us, how can we help and continue to build this? And it was incredibly humbling, because I was like, wow. I mean, this was a room full of incredibly talented people that were asking me, like, what I wanted and what I wanted to see, and it was just humbling, to say the least. It was incredible.
That's awesome. It's hardly a day goes by that I don't get a message on Instagram or an email or even a text saying someone that you helped with some sort of glassing need, whether it be, optics or tripods or accessories. As you grow, you've always been a real good people person and really good with customers and dealing with people individually and talking to them on the phone and exchanging texts and, very good communication. As you grow as a company, the one thing that just keeps blowing me away from the feedback, I'm not even talking about my interaction. I'm talking about feedback that I get from a lot of people I don't even know. And they continue to say how personalized feel you give them, how much attention to detail. So it's obvious that you take that very, very seriously, because it's obvious in the connection that I have with your customers, how they they take time to send me a 3-paragraph thank you
Right.
for introducing me to Cody. Talk about that and it's part of your business strategy and how you've had so much success.
First of all, it's always awesome to hear that stuff, and it's really kind of what makes it tick, right? It's what makes it drives me, because I just always think to myself, how do I want to be treated when I go somewhere? And when somebody, as little as when people call me and I already know who it is, and I'm like, hey, so and so, whoever that is, and they're like, God, how did you know that was me? I just want it to feel like, it's almost like you're feeling with best friends or family, or I'm interested in people, and I'm interested in what they have to bring to the table. I learn things from people. Sometimes it's not even about optics or the business, but sometimes you learn something about yourself and just dealing in that. And I love doing that. But, again, I use the word humble, and it just feels good to know that it's resonating with people. And, at Gohunt, they give me a lot of support to help, just basically provide a service for people.
Right.
And that's inevitably, this is what this is all about. And some guy said, well, I just, it's 9:00 at night, and you're answering my call or my text or whatever. And I don't do that so that I can sit here and tell about it. I do that because that guy he had a problem. And in his case, that was a legitimate, like, man, I got to take care of this.
A need.
And it was just to explain how to put something together and do it. And I'm thinking, what did that take me? 3 minutes?
Right.
Well,
it made all the difference in the world to him.
And it made everything to him. And, the other day we had something happen where there was a gentleman that his name is Mike, and he's a good customer, and he's texting me pictures now of his kids on their hunts, and he's like, dude, I owe you a burger, like, let's go out, and I'm just humbled that he would even think that about me. And what happened is that we had a next day air package that, for whatever UPS, FedEx, or whatever that situation was, it didn't show up at his office. So here the guy's going for a hunt, and so last Friday night, I called them up and said, hey, I'm really sorry, I can't even figure out what happened with the package until Monday. What are you doing? He said, I'm going on a hunt, but I'm down a tripod. And I said, what do you need? And he said what I need. And I said, well, okay, where do you live? Where are you going to be? And he's like, what? And I grabbed a tripod out of my own, garage and all my stash, and took him basically the same tripod that he was using, and gave him, the plates and everything to go with it. And I don't know. He's still sitting there thinking, I can't believe that guy did that.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes you different. That's what makes Gohunt Optics, and the customer feedback that I get. There's the difference right there. We've had a lot of success taking questions that I get on Instagram and helping answer people's questions. They love this Q&A style. We do have a bunch of questions here from Instagram followers, and while we're talking about it, I want to thank you guys for listening to this podcast. It's hard to believe. I started this in February of 2015, so this February will be 7 years, and it's the feedback that I get from this podcast and listeners is amazing. I get messages every day. Get people going on coos deer hunts and mule deer hunts, elk hunts, you name it, saying, I found this buck. I kept listening to some of the people that you were interviewing, and there's tips that you got that I got that helped me kill this buck, and then they send me pictures, and it's real rewarding.
Well, see, and that's the thing I was going to end with that part of it, because I like treating people good. I'm a people person. I've always kind of had that thing, and I love talking to people, and we know that part. But I think the most rewarding thing is when they call me back and they're like, "Hey, man, like, I know I was kind of not really wanting to use the tripod with my binos, but okay, I get it. Like I went out, and saw more deer than I've ever seen, I think that's the most rewarding part is that in some little way, I had an influence on their enjoyment simply as just something as watching deer. I don't know whether they killed it. All that's interesting.
Being able to find
whatever.
more game.
But just being able to, be with their kids and find more game and see more deer and or whatever it is. I think that's the most rewarding part is just having some little piece of that.
For sure. Guys, thanks for sending in these questions. We're going to dive through as many of these as we can.
Hammer.
We're going to start here with what is the effective range for the Vortex Razor 15s, looking at them for backpack hunting?
Well, not to be overly corrective, but I'm assuming he's... Did he say...
He says Vortex Razor 15s.
Well, it's probably Razor 18s. But I don't know. I think somewhere, 12, 15, 1,800 yards kind of thing in there. I mean, you're going to have to.
I think one of the things he didn't mention which animal that he's hunting.
Yeah,
so if he's hunting a coos or hunting an elk, it could be different.
Yeah, I mean, and you can use those. I would tell you 1,000 to 2,000. I mean, I've seen deer with 15s at ridiculous distances, but effectively, I'd like to say around that 1,500 yard mark is a good, a good space to give yourself to let the field of view, but yet let the power kind of help you work that country over.
And just to be clear, he's talking about Vortex Razor 15s. What you're saying is the Vortex 15s are actually the Kaibabs, right?
Well, they used to be the Kaibabs.
Okay.
And I mean, but it's now Razor Razor UHD 1856s.
Okay.
There's also a Diamondback 1556. So,
okay.
But I think he's referring to the 1856 UHDs.
Okay.
Great piece of glass.
Next question. I hunt the Southwest, AZ Coos, Texas Aoudad. I have a loophole 10x42. Should I upgrade binocs or get spotting scope?
This is always this is always that question. So, if he's happy and he sees well with his 10 bys, loopholes, and he's able to use them in a handheld position, or even if he puts them on a tripod and he sees well and it works for him. Yeah, I mean, I would always think about upgrading the long range side of things. That's always a whole different question. I think there's a number of people that aren't using spotting scopes. They're going to the 18 powers binoculars. But yes, I can also, there's a lot of people that are very successful with a 10 power binocular and a spotting scope. That's
you could also argue that if he says coos and Aoudad, if he's just trying to find game, if he went with say a 15, if he went with like a 15 Swirl or name a brand, if he goes up in power, probably going to find a few more animals because of the power.
Correct.
Going from a 10 to a 15 or a 10 to an 18 or even a 10 to 12.
It plays right off of that first question. It's that distance, and I'm sure we'll get NL 12 and 15 questions later. I don't. There always seems to be something with that, but it honestly speaking, that's always the like what are you trying to maximize?
Right. Are you trying to find more, or are you trying? If you have no problem finding them, then you need to identify them.
I always think that, like on a coos situation, I always think that the 15 is the workhorse.
Yeah.
Because there's just there's a size of the animal, distance that you just know that when you're glassing those big, faces or canyons or whatever, it just helps you see much more and tear things apart, even when things are moving. I mean, I know there's a reason for field of view, but gosh darn, the 15s and 18s, just help you.
Wouldn't you say if this same question was a guy saying that he primarily hunts elk, you would say stick with your 10x42s because you can spot them a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think elk are all that difficult to find.
Go with a spotting scope that then you can spot them.
Yep.
With the 10s and then identify them with the larger power. But when he starts talking about Aoudad and Coos, that kind of makes me lean towards a higher power binocular because it's the workhorse.
If the question was, well, hey, I'm trying to check to see is that Aoudad 30 inches, or whatever the aging on it. That's I think you got to lean towards a spotter. But if you're just trying to find game, I would go to the bigger optic.
I agree. Okay, is the Collis Helia S the Swirl SLC that was discontinued late 2020?
It's funny. I was just looking at this a couple weeks ago. I believe that is it. They're not coming into the States. There's unless something else is developed, there's no plan of it. I wished that we were able to keep the SLCs around. It's a fantastic piece of glass, but I don't think they're coming into the States. But yes, I do believe if you look on Collis's website that is the 1042 or 842 1042 that they just discontinued on the Swarovski side of things.
Okay. Best all-around user-friendly scope for a 30-06. So he's talking rifle scope. He's saying he's a bow hunter. He's making the switch to rifle hunting.
I think there's two scope lines to look at on that. In a price point, I would tell you that going to the Vortex like Viper HD 4-16, I think that there's certainly that scope has been we've sold a boatload of those scopes. They've done really super well. We don't have any warranty issues with them. It's got the bullet drop compensator. It allows you to do a lot of things. The other scope I'd look at would be one of the Leupold VX3s. It's HDs. They've got a CDS dial on them now with a locking turret. They're bulletproof. Those would be two of the scopes I would look at.
Okay. Your go-to spotting scope and tripod combo for AZ glassing. Now, he doesn't say elk, mule deer, coos. He says AZ. So I assume he's a little bit of everything.
I don't know. Does he want to come look at my garage and see what I got going for tripods? In spotting scopes, right?
Go-to spotting scope and tripod combo.
My spotting scope that I've been just kind of going to, and I'm talking just spotting scope, STX 85 is kind of been my go-to for putting the pack, walking away from the truck, or even if I'm just taking a quick look at something, on the side of the mountain as I'm driving by or whatever. But that's pretty much been my go-to. That's such a convoluted question for me because I use the BTXs and so with that I've been really big on my slick 834 lately. I've been loving my VA5 and I've also been using the VH10, but really I've been using the 834 and a VA5 pretty much for everything except for the biggest. Yeah. The BTX and the 115.
It's so funny when you say that. I've been reaching for the 834.
Oh,
as
such
well.
A good combination.
I like how short it folds down to.
Yep.
And I like the thicker, the little bit thicker diameter
leg.
of the leg, and there's a trade off a little bit on the 833. You only, it seems like on the 834 I'm using two extensions and I'm constantly having
right.
On the 33 it seems like I'm only just doing one.
And that's the
but
thing
I like how small it is.
I think people are fascinated. They're like, "Well, what do you use?" And I'm like, "Well, so like right now my go-tos in my truck and my pack is I've really been using the 933 for sitting on a stool behind a BTX and a 115 with a Suray VH10 head and slick 933 carbon fiber pro. And the best part about it is that I literally drop the middle leg just by, I don't know, like 3 or 4 inches, and I can put my stool out, put the tripod down, and I'm glassing within seconds. And I don't have to make any adjustments for the rest of the time I'm doing that. Mm-hmm. And then in my pack, it's always some combination of a 834 or 7, just depending on what I'm doing, but it's always a little bit lighter weight version.
Cody is the man. We recommend his expertise to everyone. That's not really a question, but
was that a paid advertisement?
Yeah. Thinking about giving up my EL12s to try out the SLC 15s, do you feel the extra 3 power is worth it?
Okay. This goes right and feeds directly into that conversation that we were just having. And I'm gonna revert back to a scenario when Dar and I were out on Parker's late 23 hunt. This was a few years back. Dar and I are sitting at a little lunch spot. We're sitting on tailgates. Tripods are set up. We're kind of keeping an eye on a face that had some deer on it. It's been kind of hot rutting activity. So I had kind of finished glassing, and I don't know what I did. I turned around and went to take a bite of sandwich or whatever it was, and Dar says, "Cody, did you see those deer standing right there?" And I'm like, he's looking right where I was just looking, so I'm thinking, man, is this like getting fished by the back, outfished from the back of the boat again, or what?
Which happens with him a lot.
Well, I know, yeah, Dar's a little sneaky like that, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I just went over that spot, and I did. I looked back up and I slowed down. Okay, keywords in the sentence of this whole deal is I slowed down, and then I said, "Gosh darn, Dar, there's 2 does standing there," and he says, "Yeah, they just moved in there." So I quickly got behind the 15s, quickly went back to the 12s, and he and I kind of did that a few times. And Dar had been kind of reluctant to get on the 1250, bandwagon. And look, those have their purpose. But what I really realized, those deer were at like, I don't know what it was, like 800, 900 yards. They were at we were kind of looking slightly uphill at them. The sun, the
cross slope, cross shade.
No, not just cross shade. No, this was like sun.
Okay.
And you had that buck brush, and you're kind of like, there's just a little bit of a sheen across the mountain. I skipped right over the top of them, never even thought twice about it. And so I learned 2 things. First of all, when I looked in the 15s, those deer stood out like sore thumbs. Second of all, what it taught me is that when you're using smaller magnification, and you're equally like having somebody with you that's got 15s, slow down. If you're not slowing down in those scenarios,
you'll go right over them.
You'll go right over the top of them. And it was just a blatant lesson, like, oh yeah, here I am, with my buddy Dar, and he just schooled me.
Well, that's where the 3 power makes up for it.
And that's what we're talking about.
Looking.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is that's what we're talking about, is that when you get people always want to know, well, it's like they're looking at it like an equation, like I'm going to use this at this distance and that at that distance, and I don't care whether I was using 8s that day. I could see those animals with 8s. I just need to slow down when I'm doing it.
Right.
And
so in other words, because of 3 more power, you can actually move your eyes, scan a little bit quicker because you've got 3 more power.
Correct.
Whereas when you're, in essence, lower power, your eyes do not pick up that detail quite as much as they do with a 3 more power.
And that was, I want to say those deer, God, you'd have to ask Dar on this, but I want to say they were like somewhere between 750 and 1,000 yards.
And this goes as the same person. The next question is, what is your preferred magnification for glassing coos?
Without a doubt, it is the 15.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've been getting this on emails, and I've been getting questions and people calling, and they're like, they go right into like, well, what about the 1250 ELs? And look, I love all of them, but specifically, my workhorse for coos deer hunting is still the 15s.
Right.
It's a BTX and a 115 and fit in 15s. Period. That's my workhorse. Right. Now, if you're in more vegetation and you're in thicker cover, I'm not saying that the 12 won't do it. I'm just saying I want some power on those from the 15s, the magnification.
Next question is Sig Zulu 6. Does the image stabilization make up for having lower end glass?
First of all, in my opinion, nothing ever makes up for having. I mean, nothing makes up for that. I think what's interesting is I've only seen them once. We are a SIG dealer. They're actually on order, and I've talked to the guys about them. And Brady and I've had good conversations about them, and we actually like the idea of them. And I had to kind of warm back up to it because I was kind of against them from some older products that came out a long time ago. Here's the truth. Look, anything that you can do to stabilize your image, that's the whole point that we're talking about. Do I think that negates having a tripod? No, I don't. There's still movement going on. Yes, does having that image stabilization help? But I'll still go with better glass in a tripod look, for guys that are, if you're in a truck or you're just trying to, to help yourself out that way, or even if you're using them as your chest binos, which a lot of guys are now, it's kind of a popular thing. That's not a bad thing. It's, I'm still gonna, for myself, I'm gonna want the better. I want the better glass. Period.
Best scope magnification for Western hunting. I don't know if he's talking rifle scope or spotting scope.
Well,
I assume he's talking spotting scope.
Read that to me one more time.
Best scope magnification for Western hunting.
Well, I'm going to assume he's saying rifle scope.
Okay.
I mean, the variables, you've got so many choices. I don't own. I have a couple scopes that are 20 and 24 power. I think a lot of times, sometimes power creates more problems than it solves, but I generally speaking like the 3 to 18. That's kind of my wheelhouse. In a lot of cases, I've been on 18 power and actually turned the power down, to where maybe more the reticle fits what I'm doing better, and I can keep it more still at 15 power as opposed to 18. But I think it depends on what country you're hunting. I think it depends on how far you're intending to shoot, what your comfortability is, and what you need to do the job right.
But kind of your workhorse in the power range is 3 to 18.
I like the 3 to 18, 4 to 16. A lot of guys get away with it, 3 to 12 or something like that. But I generally speaking like that 3 to 18, 3.5 to 18.
Okay. Next question: how can we get Swarovski support with their top-end optics and our tripod needs?
Well, God, I've been working at this for so long. And look, I think we have Swarovski's support, certainly North America. I mean, they still build an incredible product. And, I'm not sure exactly what has to happen with that, but, we've been asking for stud, I don't care if you build the stud, just let us put a stud in there. I mean, that... And look,
without voiding the warranty.
Without voiding warranties or anything like that. I mean, and look, we've crossed that bridge so many times, but the fact of it is that the Swarovski guys that we know and deal with and talk with every day, they agree with us, and it's just an idea of whoever's putting that product together. They have to not just look at the North American model. They have to look at it on a global model. And so, for a lot of those reasons, they just look at, the United States or U.S. is a big market, but, we're looking at it from this. And, I wish they would do it, but I will gladly keep asking for quarter 20 threads. You can be rest assured of that I will not fail at that. I will continue.
Next question. It's a two-part question. To be honest with you, I don't know which one comes first. It says, is Vortex going to release a 15-power Bino that is higher in quality than the Diamondback? Then the next thing says, nothing current lineup is 15 other than the Diamondback.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question.
So what we're talking about is the 18 UHDs or the 15 Diamondback?
I think what he's really talking about is are they going to offer something in like a 15? They used to offer a 15 by 50 Viper, and I mean, I'm not going to deny that I have expressed my wants for that, and I hope that they do that. That would be an excellent thing to do. I don't know any details about that and haven't been told, oh yeah, this is coming. But I just know that is prepped up for being there, and I would love to see a 1556 or, something in that realm that would allow them to fill that old 1550 spot.
Says, I'm looking for a tripod that I can stand and glass. I'm 5'10" and also shoot off of. Thanks.
Boy, there's almost a lot. There's a lot of the standing and shooting is certainly. I'm assuming that he's. Well, I don't particularly care for standing and glassing, even though I do it once in a while, depending on where I'm at, what I'm doing. I don't think it's, I try not to make it a practice.
Don't get me started.
Well, I know it works.
It's better than standing and hand holding.
Yeah, 100%.
But do not get in the habit of standing and glassing. As much as you can, please sit in a stool, sit on the ground, get as low to the ground as possible.
Look, if you pull up to a place and you're next to the truck and you want to whip out the tripod and take a look at something and kind of give it a quick look around, and then you're going to boogie over to the next spot. I get it. I understand. I totally understand. But I know that it works for certain hunting situations, but on a typical thing, the whole point of putting your optics on a tripod is to mitigate eye fatigue. And I don't care who you are. If you're standing, you're moving, and your eyes are working. It's just, So the guy's question really is we have a lot of tripods that fit that bill.
Slick 733.
733, 734. You could do 833, 834. Those would be my go-tos in that. And like even the Suray ET2204. The Vortex. You could do it with any of the Vortex tripods. The thing that I would tell them is that look, the farther you extend the legs of the tripod, the weaker it becomes.
More vibration.
The more vibration. So I don't know if he's shooting while he's standing, but I guess what I would say is that just make sure that you have a good solid base underneath you and you're mitigating as much movement as possible. So,
and just to go into that, he's 5'10". I'm almost 6'3". I can stand behind the 733, the 833.
Oh yeah,
734, 834.
So. With him, he's 5'10", so let's just say his eyes are actually at 5'8". So there's really not a whole lot of tripods that are not going to give him what he wants.
He can do it with pretty much any of them.
Yeah, maybe some of the smallest and lightest weight stuff, but most of the tripods that we carry would work for him pretty easy.
Okay. Twin Koa 30 power or BTX 65 millimeter for Coues deer, and why benefits to each. So I think he's talking twin spotters.
Yeah, he's
twin
talking
Koa
about
30s.
He's talking about the 664s from Koa. Great setup. Know a bunch of people that have used them over the years. I've looked through them, a handful of times and compared them some stuff. I don't know. I mean, I like the setup. Koa's got good glass. I'm pretty. I don't know if they're quite fluorite, but I think that they're kind of, I don't think that they're their highest end glass, but it's still been a really, really popular setup. I know that guys are doing it. I don't know. It's pretty high quality, but I don't know. I'm pretty partial to my BTX in the 115. So
he's saying BTX 65.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the 65 part. Oof.
I think he gets more performance out of an 85 or
I
95.
honestly think he's going to get more I mean, look, if you just have to compare those two, there's a part of me that kind of says the Koa's in that instance. I've never had the two side by side. I actually like to kind of see that. The 65 has been a pretty good performer, for a lot of guys. A lot of the guys, on the Eastern, Safford, Morenci, Clifton. I have a lot of customers that have been doing the BTX and the 65, and it's been real successful for them. That's a toss up. I mean, I think it'd be. Now he's got me thinking. I'd like to go figure out the field of views.
The Koa 30s. I mean, he's got to look at the setup that I use a lot, which is the Swarovski 65 millimeter, the 25 by 50 eyepiece.
Yep. I don't know. Well, you can't leave that scenario.
Yeah.
You can't leave that.
If you're looking at the Koa 30s, why wouldn't you look at the Swarovski, 25 by 50?
Right.
But yank those eye cups off there, guys.
Yep.
Can only have one pair of binos for out west. So for whatever reason, this guy's limited to one pair. Maybe he's just saying a one do-all, can only have one pair. 90% rifle hunter, NL pures or EL range.
Oh, so okay, he's giving us a. Me personally, I would go with the pures. And I would do it because even though how much I love the new EL range TAs and the wider field of view and the Swirl vision, I still use and like, using my handheld. Like I've been using the Helia from Collis, the rangefinder. I've been really happy with that setup. I love the Leica 2400R. I mean, a handheld rangefinder and the best quality Bino that I could do, that I would have no problems with that. I'd be very successful with it.
Next question, any chance we get a Swirl NL15 soon?
No.
I haven't even heard about it.
Well, first of all, I mean, yeah, I get questions about it almost on a daily basis right now. I know nothing of them doing this, and I would tell you that we've been thinking about this since the moment I put the NLs in my hand. Because of the field of view. So I guess my point is let me tell you what I would wish for, is that if you could take the NL glass and technology and you could give me a 15 power and give me that bigger field of view, like if you gave me 15 power,
15 or 18.
Well, yeah, if you gave me 15, whatever, if you could give me the 15 to 18 and you could give me, let's just say...
proportionate field of view.
Yeah, let's just say a 300-foot field of view for a sake of argument. Like, you could make it that to equal of a 12, buddy, I'm in.
Right.
Like, you got me, right? I want that.
Show me where to sign up.
However, here's the problem. Because when you look at the glass and you look at the hourglass shape, and we touched a little bit of this when Tom was here, I don't know that you can fit the tubes close enough together with, I don't know what the size is. Is it 48 millimeters? Is it 50 millimeters? Is it 52? I don't know how close you could get the tubes together to fit them on a frame. So, and then obviously have the IPD and work. So I don't think it's there. I'd love it. But I don't think it's in. I just don't think it's possible at this point in time.
But I think also what people ask me all the time, and you get it daily, they're wanting to know if industry insiders know of something, and I would say absolutely. I have not heard anyone from Swarovski even say it's even a possibility. But I would say never rule it out with Swarovski because they're unbelievable.
Well, I never say never.
Right.
And before I knew about the 1242, I would have told you, who would ever do a 1242?
Right.
Why would you do that? But when you add the field of view into that concept, it changes everything. So, I have no knowledge and have not heard anything from any credible anybody that would say that there's a 15 coming. Do I want one? Sure, I'd love to have one.
When are the forehead rests for the EL range TA coming in?
Look, the accessories, and I hate using things for excuses, but accessories have been really, really, difficult and hard on us, from a lot of different manufacturers, and they are on order. We're working on it. We'll do the best we can to keep everybody informed of that. But yeah, the accessories, and especially the forehead rests, they've been really difficult to get a hold of.
And I mean, I can tell you, I've been using my EL range all fall, and I don't have the forehead rest on there, and I don't miss it one bit personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that if you're trying to range something in extended ranges, that the forehead rest will help. However,
for most practical use, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I like the idea of it, and I wish we had them all to sell with every single unit, but accessories has been really difficult, and they're working on it too, and they're trickling out.
Decent scope for a teenager, first 270 rifle.
That is a incredibly loaded question. Props to getting a guy started and getting a kid or whoever that is into it. I think it kind of depends on how much he's practicing, what his distances, or does he have limitations, or all that. But I would tell you that there's two trains of thought in this. You either give the kid what you're going to shoot with all the time and get him right into building as he goes and make him mitigate and keep the power, or you put together a 270 and you put like a 4-12 or a 4-16 on it and let him learn how to figure it out and practice.
Rifle scope for a Browning X-Bolt in a 6.5 PRC.
Oh, geez. I'm just putting one of those together myself. Finally got some ammo. I was really happy about that. Thanks, Tom. I think the PRC, I want to shoot with it out to, 6, 7, 800, 900 yards, whatever, 1,000 yards, when I'm hitting steel, and, for what I'm going to do with it. I'm still going, I've got it set up right now. I think that's going to wear an actually 3-18. So I kind of go back to the 3-18. That's kind of what, kind of a lighter weight, scope. That it's a lighter weight gun, the one that I have. So I'm going to put a little bit lighter weight rig on it, and so that 3-18 is more than likely what it's going to wear.
Don't see Zeiss V6 1 to 6 to 24 on website. Are these orderable through Cody?
Yeah. If he'll call me, I will see what the availability is, and we can make that happen.
ATX worth the cost. I have ATS.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's worth the cost because I think exponentially, yeah, it's a newer, better glass system, and the versatility and the options that you get with it when you start expanding into other things. I absolutely think it's worth its expense. I would tell you that. I mean, my STX 85 I've been using a lot, and I really, really like that setup. as much as I like, and I mean, I can't even think of the, hundreds and hundreds of times that I've taken the ATS and STS 80s out, and how good of a scope that was. But I'm not going to lie, I'd just choose the STX 85 over it any day.
Guys, before we get to the next question, 702-847-8747 is how you get a hold of Cody. You can also email him at optics@gohunt.com. You can also send him a text message on his cell phone at 602-399-3699. Make sure that any optic needs, just reach out to Cody here. Let's see. For buying used Swarovski 15s, difference between newer SLC and older SLC?
The biggest difference was the addition of the Aberconic prism, so that's number one. The newer ones are about 3/4 of an inch shorter. They're not near as tube. They're not near as long in the tube. They have the one thing that a lot of people will be really happy about is the older SLCs 15s have a shorter IPD, meaning that the tubes don't close down as close together. So I think the measurement went from 2.0 to 2.2. So a lot of the
guys with closer eyes,
for the guys
like I do.
when or your nose gets in the way or whatever, that it definitely allows you to go a little bit tighter.
I used to have to take the eye cups off.
Yep.
Now I don't.
Yep.
I can
that's
stagger
exactly,
them.
Because
I can stagger the
the
eye
measurement literally went from 2.0 to 2.2.
Right.
And I can't tell you the number of people that it made happy.
But the technology is just better. When you look through it's better.
You've got Abby component, which basically makes light transmission easy, better, and you're getting better low light performance. But the other thing is that they're a couple ounces lighter. So I mean, it's quite a big difference.
Best spotting scope for around 2,000, but willing to bump up to 2,500 if it's worth it.
Boy, right at the 2,000 mark, I'd look pretty strongly at the Zeiss Gavias, the 30 to 60 by 85. It only comes in an angled, which a lot of guys like that. It's about 60-40 angled right now. If I had to purchase a spotting scope and it was going to be at that price range, I would the 25 to 50 STS HD 65 would be my go-to. That's one of my it's one of my favorite do everything spotting scopes, no doubt.
Best spotter for saving size and weight.
Well, I would just tell you that the spotter that comes to mind the most is what I was just talking about with the STS 65 or ATS 65 HD, with either the 20 to 60 or the 25 to 50 eyepiece.
What should I sell my Swirl 10x42 Generation 1 range Binos so I can upgrade to the Gen 2?
What should he sell them for?
Yeah, but it's actually Gen 3, isn't it?
Actually, it's Gen 2. Well, I mean, there's, they did the Pro.
So yeah, it's talking about the 10x42 EL range.
Technically, it's Gen 2, but I think the easiest way to tell people how to do this is I go to eBay. I look at the 90-day solds listings. I try to match up my, whatever my product is with exactly that product as best I can.
Right. As far as how much used it is.
Like what's the wear and tear on it? What's the condition? Is everything operable? Do you have the box? Do you have the paperwork? Do you have neck straps and anything else that came with it? That's always a bonus. And I look at those 90-day solds. I take the highs. I take the lows. And kind of figure out where mine fits, and I kind of just work it that way.
In-depth review of new 12 by 42 Swirl. So I assume he's talking about the NL Pure.
The testing sessions that I've had with it, holy cow. Pretty amazing piece of glass. I think that the three things that just make it so unique is, number one, you're getting a 12 magnification binocular, but you're not gaining size, overall size. You're still in the 10 frame.
Not bulky.
Yeah, you're not bulky. You're not gaining weight. You don't have to go change your chest pack. For a 12. You're keeping the lightweight. That's a big deal to people. And the most amazing thing that was so apparent the first time I put my eyes through, I looked through the 10s first, and I was absolutely blown away when you compared field of view. Mm-hmm. Because the field of view is so great. So the fact that you can have a 12 power binocular, that's got 340 or 339 foot field of view, which normally they should have about 299. Any advantage I can take over that, I will take. And I think that binocular has spoken to so many people because, I meet people all the time that have eye problems, or they're having trouble seeing, and whatever they're going through, it's given them the idea that they can have a 2 more magnification. They get that field of view. It's in a lightweight, more compact, than the regular 12. And because of that field of view, I will tell you that in the times that I've been able to really play with them and use them and compare them to other pieces, that field of view kind of helps you keep it steadier, like when you're hand holding it. I mean, look, I would hand hold them when I had to, but I'm still going to put them on a tripod.
Well, it's like the 1250 ELs. I had them as well. I have the 12 by 42 NLs. My hands have always kind of had a little shake to them. I couldn't effectively hold the 12 by 50 ELs, but I used the 12 by 42s all fall at the OT6, and they're unbelievable. I mean, that 12 by 42 NL, I think it's I used to say the 10 by 42 EL was the best binocular ever made. My top notch now, if I just had to say the one, is the 12 by 42 NL.
If I just had to pick one. It would be, I would take that combo of power and field of view.
Okay. Best stand-up tripod and head for glassing deer with 15 SLC binos. Okay. We've had this question too many times for me not to say, guys, stop standing up. Like, why does everyone want to stand? I do not get it. And then I have people, send me hate mail saying, we just want to stand. And I understand if you're hunting mule deer and you're running ridges and you're moving country, but if you're coos deer hunting and you're standing, you are missing deer, I promise you.
Well, it's not only that, but
you're smiling, by the way.
I do. There's moments in time for everything. And I know that there's times when it's, when standing, it's okay. But, I spent all morning on Sunday traveling around some of my old haunts, looking at old places. Got a buddy who's got a tag and just trying to help out and be, he helped me on my elk hunt, and I want him to see get a nice buck. And so I spent some time Sunday, out doing my thing. And I'm right next to the truck, and I'm just looking at some places I've looked at 100 times. And it would have been really easy for me to pull out the tripod, extend everything, and stand and look around or whatever. But it's such habit, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't have seen, but I can tell you that when the wind picked up, like, there's no question that I'm sitting. There's just I just think
it's night and day.
It's night and day.
But to answer his question, a 733, 833, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, 734, 834, Suray VA5, like those are the bread and butter right there.
Yeah, yep, that's it.
Recommendations for and whoever asked this question, I'm not picking on you. It's just
So
please
but
sit
I'm
down.
fired up.
Gosh, dang it.
I'm not saying that you can't find it's not what I mean. But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, all I can tell you is that if we're hunting, coos deer together, and we go up through a saddle, and I peel off to one side of the saddle or not, and I sit down and I look up and you're standing out in the middle of the saddle, I'm literally going to come over. I'm either going to tackle you, or whisper you over and come and sit down, because I don't know where the deer are or where they're at, but you're just announcing to everything and anybody or whatever that you're standing in the middle of the saddle glassing. And if there was even remotely a deer around you, they're not going to be around you. That's the thing that I think gets me, is like, I don't know, these guys just, are they next to the truck in the quad, or are they actually like just running the ridges, like announcing themselves to
and I mean, there is a time and place where you've got a shooter that's right next to you, and maybe the buck is bedded behind a bush, and if you do raise your elevation, and get where you can kind of see over a bush,
Right.
or there's a certain circumstance like where you stand, because the buck, you can see him a little bit better if you gain 3 feet and get up, but in general, don't make it a practice. But we can move on.
I know.
Recommendations for a tripod head for Koa Big Eyes. So I don't know if he's talking about twin spotters, big eyes, or if he's talking about, Highlanders. But
I would, just real simple, like the VH10. I've been incredibly satisfied, and I mean,
it's awesome.
I think I've pretty much used everything that anybody has ever thought about using for the Koas, and
I think it's better than the old 501.
Well, I have a 501 sitting on my desk, and right now it's kind of a big paperweight. I used to love that head. The 502 with the neck tension worked out really well, but I don't know. This VH10 has been knocking it out of the park. I love it. I'm not gonna lie.
How significant is the difference between HD and non-HD Swirl glass?
I mean,
significant.
Well, yeah, and I think
there's a difference.
I think there's a difference, and I think you need to go put them. I think what you really need to do is go put them on a resolution chart, and I think you'll.
That question is someone that is either looking at buying a used pair of the old technology, and I would say if you're going to use these binoculars a lot, just buy once, pay once, cry once, whatever buy the best. You always say it, buy the best glass you can afford.
Yep.
Don't cut corners. Go with the newest technology. Go with the best technology you can buy, and I just think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's
you can use them for 10 years.
I would tell you, like, the other scenario I've heard of quite a bit lately is like guys putting twins together, and one's HD, one's non-HD. I'm like, don't do that.
No.
So
will Gohunt be selling Collis Binos ever?
Well, I mean, look, guys, I've already made that clear that I really wanted to sell the 1042 Collis, because I was such a big fan, and the price point, everything, and the performance of that 1042 SLC, 842 SLC, but they're not coming. They're not coming in the States, is what I've been told.
Saguaro Warranty experience.
I mean, I think it's been phenomenal over the years. Just to put it out there, like, I think people are, expecting, a no fault, warranty. And I would tell you that with Swarovski, I mean, look, there's a lot of great warranties out there. I mean, you've got, the no fault, policy from Zeiss, and you've got the Leicas. Even they brought back one of their old, I think it's called their Passport. It's like a 10-year no fault. So you've got all these things going on. You got Vortex and the VIP and Loophole to Lifetime and all that going on. Swarovski over the years has just done a really good job of setting expectations. You send your product in, They call you with any estimates. They tell you how much it's going to be. They fix the product. And in many cases, what I've noticed is they fix a lot of stuff that they have no business. They have no, contractual, like they have to fix. I actually kind of see them fixing more, on their own than they do charge for stuff. So, I don't know. I mean, I always tell the story about the guy that had a cracked lens on his 15s. His 15s are like, I don't know, 16 years old when this happened. And they call him up and say, hey, that's $75 for this lens. And he says, well, because of the age, like, is that going to make a difference between the two? And they're like, well, it actually could, because of the, lenses can age. And so he's like, well, just, charge me double and put extra. And he goes, well, come to think of it, he goes, well, can I just get all 4 new lenses? And they're like, well, you could do that, but the other ocular lenses are fine. And he's like, no, just do it. So they literally charged him $300. He gets them back, and they look brand spanking new. He pays $300, and he's got basically a 15-year-old binocular, 16-year-old binocular
with new glass.
For $300. And my dad and I sent in 2 8x30s years ago. They came back brand new glass.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They do a phenomenal job at doing what they do, and I think their warranty is fantastic.
I have the NL12s and a ATX/BTX 95. Any reason to carry 15s for Coos deer?
Well, I mean, look, he's sitting the fence, and he's doing a good job, because everything that he just mentioned, I'm going to be successful with any scenario you give me out of that deal. I'll tell you this right now. And he said 12 NLs, right?
He has the 12 NLs, and he has the ATX 95 and the BTX eyepiece.
I mean, I'm not going to go carry the 12 and the 15 together. So, like, I would be making decisions of. And did he say Coos deer?
Yeah, 4 Coos deer.
4 Coos deer. So
I would answer that. I have the NL12s and the 15s. For Coos deer specifically, I would run the 15 power. I would still have my 95 BTX for Coos. I would go with the extra 3 power. That's what I would do. For Coos specifically,
right.
Go with the 15.
Unless you told me you were going into some place, here's the whole golf club bag again. You got to have, whatever club for whatever shot you're taking. But if you told me you were going into heavy cover and you needed to feel the view, yeah, I mean, sure, I'd take the 12. I mean, is he trying to, like, unload the 15s? Or I wouldn't carry them together, but I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's times when I've left the truck with no chest binocular, and I've used my rangefinder as a close distance thing and had my 15s in the spotter. So I think that there's, I think he just has to make a decision on where he's glassing and what he's doing. If he's not looking to sell them, I think he needs to situationalize or use the situation and use the one that's best going to help him out.
Adjustable power BTX ? It'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great, but I think what happens is that, when you add the variable part of it, it changes the dynamics, the size, the glass, the interior of it. And in some degree, in some ways, you're gonna minimize, or you're going to take away from the quality of what you're seeing with a fixed power. So I would just tell you, no, I don't ever think it's going to happen, and I'm okay with that. I use the BTX and the different objectives for certain things. And I most always am looking at long distances, and I do. I have an STX, and I have an 85, and I have a 95. So I just use what's appropriate for the day and what I'm doing.
Okay, next question. Is the weight of the 115 worth it to pack around compared to the 95 for the BTX eyepiece?
Well, first of all, look, I've had now a lot of time behind the 115.
So have I.
and I know there's people out there that think I'm crazy, and I think that when you, I have both of them. I compare them side by side, looking at the same animal at dark 30 in the morning, and to me it's like somebody turned on the lights.
Yeah, on the 115.
I mean, it's a mathematical equation. You're getting more light to your eye. Period.
Yeah.
It's almost a 3.3 exit pupil versus a 2.73, and which by my definition,
not to mention the balance.
Well, I love the way that you take that VH10 head, the BTX, and the 115.
It balances
I don't need
better.
anything. I don't need any a balance for it. I don't need any of it. It balances perfect. But to answer his question, I think it. Again, I use the BTX and the 115 for incredibly long looks. Generally speaking, I would tell you that where I'm hiking out to points and stuff, but I'm typically not carrying it with me every single step of the way. I always, when I leave and if I'm gonna, if I'm actually pulling the trigger hunting, then I'm actually leaning towards the spotting scope and that. I carry the BTX and for different purposes. I use it way more for scouting and way more for longer looks and when I'm helping people. And so I just use it for different reasons. But, it's 7 3/4 pounds. It's a lot to carry. So.
Okay, this guy's might be high, but why is everyone crazy about the NL Pure when the SLC is brighter? ? Coos specific 15 power SLC. So this guy's trying to say that why is everyone crazy over the NL Pure when the SLC is brighter? The NL Pures are brighter than the SLC. What is he talking about?
Yeah, I have a hard. I mean, yeah, that's kind of
okay. I love you, but you're high. The NL Pures.
Yeah,
are brighter than the SLCs. I'm telling you.
And it is. It's a much closer exit pupil, but
But Coos specific, yes. 15 power SLC, yes. They get the thumbs up from me.
Yeah, I do. I'll take the 15s on the Coos specific.
But guys, remember too, our opinion. This is just Cody and I's opinion and what we like. What we like may be different than what you like.
This goes back to that whole thing of like, this is why it's so important for guys to put their own eyes behind things.
Yeah. We can have fun with it and say
they're
high and all that.
And we do have fun with it. And I'm not, look, we have fun and joke about all this stuff. And I know that there's guys that are like, well, I do that and I'm successful. And that's why they make chocolate and vanilla. That's what you do.
Yeah.
But put your own eyes behind it. And I'm just giving scenarios. We're talking more stuff today, giving opinions, but, of what we do. But at the same time, like, that's why I try to listen to people and go, okay, what are you trying to maximize out of this? What are you trying to do? What's important to you?
Right.
And if that guy tells me that he's hunting in a place that's, heavier vegetation and, canopy, and that he needs to feel the view, then I help him achieve that.
Right.
And I think that's what's important out of all this.
It says, do you think other optic companies will start coming out with dual IP spotters?
Wow. First of all, I would love that. I mean, it would be incredible if they would do that. Because I think at the end of the day, people would say, "Oh, Cody, loves the Swarovski and the BTX and whatever." But you know what I like most about the whole thing is I like having choices.
As a consumer, it's awesome.
And by the way, why do I like those choices? It's because I want to put my eyes behind it and figure out what works best for me. That's the important thing that I love out of that. And I welcome that. I think it would be really cool to see some of that. And it would be interesting to see if it could be made, better, or, I'm always wanting better no matter what.
Okay, my Opta is best glass outside of the top three. My Opta is best glass outside of top lines of the big three. Why no love for my Opta?
Well, Yeah, Meopta's it's a great piece of glass. There are certain dealers. I think when you get to a certain point, you have certain offerings. I've actually looked at that proposition, to guys that ask questions about manufacturers and are we going to carry this, going to carry that. I would just always tell you that we are always looking at new and interesting things to bring to the table. And I think that going into 2022, you will see some things coming that I'm not able to discuss right now, because we're always looking at new vendors and things that will make us a better optics and gear shop for our customers. Period.
Hunting private land pronghorn, looking to score. So he's looking to field judge
And by the
score.
way, that Meopta deal, like Meopta makes a great product, and they've done so for a lot of years. So again, I just drive this home. Hey, look, if you go, you look through Meopta and it works for you, I think a guy, would be really happy with them. But it's not that I'm not showing love or whatever. It's just sometimes you got to figure out, okay, does it work for us? And is it some, am I not already, do I not already have the versatility in our SKU selection?
Does it bring something?
Does it bring something completely new?
Right.
So,
okay, hunting private land pronghorn, looking to field judge and score close to 80-inch bucks. Money on spotter or binos? I say spotter.
Well, in that,
he's wanting to.
Yeah. If he's really wanting to zoom in on stuff, I think when you're, that's the whole point behind the spotter, is we've always talked about when you're, you're not just trying to tell if it's a buck or not. You're trying to see if it's going to break 80 inches. And the only way that you do that is you study it and know exactly what the measurements are to the best of your ability. And the way to do that is with the best glass you can get or afford and study it.
Got two questions back to back here. Best way to clean, one is best way to clean tripods, and then the next question is best way to clean optics after your hunts.
I do get a fair amount of this question. I typically will try to wipe off my tripods, especially the middle legs and the lower legs, when you have extended them. Because, a lot of us, if you're around, trucks and, it's just, the wind and you're getting all that dust in there. I try to blow that stuff off. I love air compressors. I've got a little DeWalt, just a hand, well, it's not one of the big ones. It's in my garage that I blow stuff off all the time. I try to, like on flip locks, I think it's real important to open up the flip locks and blow all that stuff out of there and kind of work the locking mechanisms back and forth. Wipe down the legs. I think it's good to blow the heads off. The tracks where the plates go in and out, those can get gummed up. A lot of people don't realize that, like when you're breathing on your head, the moisture can get in there and then it gets a little dirt on there. So like I take a Q-tip and go in the channels of the both the plates and the
Arcus
the Arcus plates, or I go into the channels of the head itself and clean those out. So that's the way I would do it. As far as cleaning the optics, I always try to take a brush and get anything off that can just come off by that way. I try to either use canned air or an air compressor. I just try to keep the air. I don't try to put it like a half inch away from it and blow that out. I try to keep everything away from that and get as much off of it as possible. I after a long hunt, I know that, I always say this, but I've seen things on food and, snot and everything else. I mean, just bodily functions that go on out there on a hunting trip. I tell you one that drives me, like chew spit, it's hard to get off, and licorice. Those are the ones that have always been the most difficult. But what I would tell you is that if you've got stuff on there that's adhered, like really stuck on the glass, I would tell you that, to get a good liquid, like a Zeiss spray, or and you let it soak on there, like turn your binocular so it's sitting to where you can put a little of the moisture on there and let it soak in. And then you're just going to have to be really careful with like a wet, like one of the wet cloths, and start, seeing if you can get it to come off of there. I know people that run them under a sink, like just not like a nozzle, but just out of a faucet, just let warm water run on them. That's okay too. I mean, they're, if they're purged or if they're nitrogen filled and everything is good and they're solid like that, which most of these are, I would tell you that that's okay. I would just, but if you're just going to take a nozzle and spray them off, I would tell you I don't think that's the way to do it. But then, once I've gotten all the debris off, I normally go back over them with a wet cloth, always in a circular motion. I never use my gloves. I never use shirt tail. I always try to either use the cloth,
an Optic approved cloth,
that was designed for it, or I use one of the wet cloths. And I mean, you can, like on our website, you can get the Zeiss 60 count. I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't know. I go through them so often that, I mean, I buy a couple boxes of them and I stick them and have them in, they're in my pack, they're in my truck, they're in the side pocket of my gear bag, they're everywhere. So I just always try to have those available.
For desert glassing, are 15 power binos enough, or should I be running a good set of 12 power binos and a spotter?
Well, this goes back to that whole question. I get a lot of people asking, and I think that there's, yes on both, but I guess my question would be is like guys that really don't like spotters, go with the binocular and again, are you just trying to see the deer, or are you trying to, evaluate the deer? What are you trying to do with it? I'm of the opinion that I'm always going to have a spotter with me. I'm always going to have either, a 12 or a 15, and generally I'll have an 8 or a 10. So I like a 3-tier system, but, some guys want to go with the 2. I get it. So you got to figure out what works for you best. And I think it comes down to are you evaluating, or are you just trying to find them?
This question, a lot of people asking these same questions, which tells me something, that a lot of people want to know the answer. Mm-hmm. For coos deer hunting, what would pair better with a 10 power bino, a 15 or an 18 power, no spotting scope? So he doesn't have a spotting scope. He has a 10 power bino. Would a 15 or an 18 be better? I would go ahead.
Look, I like 15s, but I think the question is that which glass makes more sense for you?
Like, I think what he's saying is he's already got 10s. Should he get 15s or 18s or a spotting scope?
I would be way less concerned about the difference between the 15 and the 18, and I would be way more concerned about which glass works for your eyes. So, look, I could take a set of 1556 Swarovskis, a 1556 Zeiss, an 18 Kaibab, an 18 UHD. I mean, all of those things considered, I would ask you to ask, a couple questions. One, do you want the field of view of the 15, or do you want the power of the 18? If you're not, I mean, I have sold a boatload of 18s this year to people that don't want to use the spotters, and so many of them go to the 18 power. There's nothing wrong with that, and I get reports back all the time that they're finding a lot of game with it. I think that's great. So again, I if you're in that scenario, I think that, sometimes when you're carrying two pieces like that, the greater the spread, meaning that you have a 10 and an 18, there's 8 power difference between the two. If that's going to help you find more deer and also have the ability to maybe evaluate them a little better, then that's what you should do.
Okay, this next question, he's a high country deer hunter. He says, next optic you'd buy, I currently have 10x42 Viper hunting the high country for deer. I'd say spotting scope, wouldn't you? I mean, Viper 1042 is fine for high country deer.
I think you can see a lot, but again, was he just trying to
He just
upgrade?
said next optic you'd buy.
Yeah, I mean, if he's happy with the performance of the Vipers, which, that's always a good, solid performer. On a high country deal like that, I don't know that I would just switch to 15s and go,
I kind of look at it as with the 10 Viper high country, so he's probably talking above timberline. Those deer are not really hard to see.
Right.
You can see them a long ways out, but then what you need to do is be able to identify them. So I think rather than go with a 15 or an 18 or a 12 to get more power, stick with the 10 and maybe go with get a spotter first.
I would lean towards the spotter in that scenario.
And then
for me.
Then he can get up there, spot a buck, and then he can get a scope, spotting scope on it and identify. And I think he'd be better off with that. Okay. Yep. Extender for long range phone scoping 1 to 2 miles or not worth it because of stability and atmosphere.
So, okay, read that one more time.
I know it's extender for long range phone scoping 1 to 2 miles or not worth it because of stability and atmosphere.
So is he talking about like the 1.7 extender or
I don't know if he's
Leica's
talking about
1.8?
I'm not sure. I think he might be asking about the extender.
So, so I've done a fair amount of digiscoping with the 1.7. I have some limited use behind the 1.8 from Leica. It's been a while since I've used that.
You need a lot of light for the extenders.
You got to have a ton of light for them. And look, I think that the extender for the 1.7 extender from Swarovski and both Leica cannot be compared to like the old doubler for the 15s or the binoculars of old from Swarovski, because I think that these extenders perform better than those did for what they were used for. So I would tell you that they have their place. I will just tell you that without a doubt, when I went from regular spotting scope and then put the extender in and then took the pictures, I would tell you that yes, the image was larger, but they were super grainy.
Grainy, yeah.
And you just lost some on that. And I think there's enough we've done out there that I think if you were to look back at the pictures, say, with just the spotter and maybe you used your zoom on your phone, I think you get a better balance and a better quality picture out of it that way than the other way around. So I would, yeah.
Guys, I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. I want to thank the sponsors of the podcast. Obviously, I've been talking here with Cody Nelson, the optics manager at Gohunt.com Gear Shop. I want to remind you guys that you can use the JScott promo code to get a 10% discount there at the Gear Shop. You can also text Cody directly at 602-399-3699. You can call the shop at 702-847-8747. You can also send Cody a direct message through email, optics@gohunt.com. Also want to tell you guys about the Gohunt mapping with the new edition of the mobile maps. Have you been using the mobile maps, Cody?
I have.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really excited about it. It helped me a lot on my elk hunt this year. I've just been what a process to watch evolve.
Yeah. Basically started with nothing and created.
I remember like the first version, I was like, oh wow, this is, we just kept adding, and the testing and the people that the amount of effort and team that's been doing this, this is what I mean. I get to sit and literally have a front row seat.
Yeah. Of a great team.
And watch this happen. And it's
every
been
update
amazing.
that keeps coming, it just gets better and better.
Yep.
One thing that's really jumped out for me on the Gohunt maps, both on mobile and on desktop, is with all my ranches in Mexico, I try and provide everybody with a map, and I really work on Google Earth a lot, and that's been historical, what I've used for a long time.
Yep.
And what I've been noticing on a lot of these Mexico ranches and some of these new ranches where the owners say, hey, I've put a bunch of roads in the last year. Well, on my Google Earth image, aerial image, it's not there. Well, I go to Gohunt desktop, all of a sudden, boom, here's, 40 miles worth of new roads that I'm able to go on and highlight, and make my roads on the map. And then, boom, it's right there on my Gohunt map, mobile map. I'm impressed with the aerial they're using.
And it's just gonna keep getting better.
And with the 3D, I'm excited about it. But guys, check out if you're not. So the Gohunt mapping is included in the Insider membership. That's one thing that you need to understand is when you sign up for the Insider, not only do you get the draw odds, you get the harvest statistics, you get all the stuff that when you're looking at the Western states and where to apply and what hunts you want and animals and areas and units. You also get the Gohunt maps. It's the same price. They haven't raised the price. Nope. So if you go to gohunt.com/JScott, you're going to get a $50 Gohunt Gear Shop gift card just for signing up. So check that out. It's also in the show notes. I want to thank Gohunt for their sponsorship. They were my title sponsor in 2015. They've been with me ever since. Also, Kuiu Ultralight Hunting. That's the gear that I wear on all of my hunts. The backpack I wear, all the ultralight clothing that I wear on my hunts. Go to kuiu.com. That's KUIU.com. They're a direct-to-consumer model. And then phonescope.com. Use the JScott21 promo code. It's going to get you a 10% discount. Cody, as always, it's great having you here at my house. We're kind of moving into Coos deer season,
so
December, January, the rut coming up. I know it's a time your face just lit up when I mentioned
buddy.
Watching rutting Coos deer, and I know with a bunch of the OTC changes here in Arizona, I know you've been getting a lot of calls about it and such. But this is, we start getting into December, and that's when rutting Coos deer start to come to mind.
It's my time to scout, is what I call it.
Yeah.
If I don't have a tag, I'm looking to help something.
Yeah.
I want to go look.
Those deer, coming up after Christmas and January, those bigger bucks, it just seems like you can see more during that rutting period. And so we're getting excited about that. I'm going to be heading to Mexico here soon with the crew and looking forward to it. I want to thank everyone listening here to the podcast. And Cody, thanks as always. I want to give you a chance, final few words here to the listeners.
Yeah, I would just tell people to, customers new and old, and pay attention to your emails, pay attention to the announcements. Always new and fun stuff coming from Gohunt. With the holidays coming on, so lots of flash sales and all kinds of stuff going. So it's awesome to watch all this stuff get created and get them announced. And one of the other things too is with the Insider. Just remember, you're always getting emails. First come. On certain sales, and you're getting monthly drawings, entered in those. It's not just, there's the point values that you can use on gear later. That's dollar for dollar. When you get a point, that it ends up being $1, so you get that to use later on other purchases. There's
saving money.
There's just so much of that stuff. There's so much value involved with it. I would just. But keep paying attention and keep giving us feedback, because it makes us better.
Right on, buddy. Well, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Yep, I know.
It's that time of year. It's beautiful out. There's a little cool in the breeze.
It is cool, but we're both still in shorts.
We're still in shorts.
We have sweatshirts on, but we both have our shorts on.
So
Guys, again, thanks for listening. Thanks for all your feedback. You can send me a direct message on Instagram at jscottoutdoors on Instagram. Also email me jscottoutdoors at gmail.com. Appreciate all of you listening. Thanks and God bless.
thanks again, Jay.